Hi, my name is Trish Hayton. I am a sports physiotherapist from CSIO, Ontario. Today we're going to talk about recovery, particularly recovery for athletic athletes during this time of COVID-19 and the quarantine. When we talk about recovery, the first thing to discuss is sleep. It is very important to get into good sleep hygiene and to maintain these habits during this difficult time. Attempt to get 8 hours sleep. Go to bed at the same time every night. Get up at the same time every morning. Naps should be minimal, perhaps a half hour once a day. The other item to address during recovery is nutrition. You will have to make some changes due to the changes in training volume. As you train less and perhaps less intensely, your caloric intake will need to go down. Be careful of the foods that you are eating. Try to increase your intake of fruits and vegetables and decrease your fats and proteins. Maintain proteins to be lean, healthy proteins. Remember that 1/4 of every plate should be saved for healthy whole grains. If you have questions about diet, seek out the advice from a registered dietitian. Although most clinics are closed, registered dietitians can easily complete consults and give advice online or through telehealth. Another element of recovery is stretching and maintaining flexibility during this time. I am now going to lead you through a short stretching routine, which can be done 2 or 3 times a week to maintain flexibility and health of your joints and muscles. First, you're going to find a space with lots of room. Start with 2 deep breaths, all the way in and all the way out. Next, we are going to stretch your neck. Take your left ear down to your left shoulder. Hold this and then rotate your nose towards your armpit. Hold this position for about 10 seconds. Slowly, you're going to roll your head all the way around to the other side, bringing your right ear to your shoulder and stretching the side of your neck. Once you've held this, you're going to take your nose down towards your armpit and stretch the back of your neck. Hold this position again for about 10 seconds. Following this, you're going to come down into a bent knee downwards dog to start to stretch out your back. Hold this position for a few seconds. Then you're going to walk forward into a cobra pose. Arch your back and let your hips come forward so you're beginning to stretch out your abdomen and hip flexors. Again, hold it for 10 seconds. When that is done, come up into a straight leg downward dog to get your hamstrings flexible. This is going to be followed by a high plank cobra, so your hips are no longer on the ground and you're really letting that anterior hip sink towards the floor. Following this, you're going to come into a child's pose to start to stretch out the low back. Bring your bottom towards your heels as far as you can. You are then going to bring your left knee up to start to stretch out your right hip flexor. Make sure in this stretch that you're keeping your abdominals tight so that you feel it deep inside the hip flexor. After you've held this position, bring your left knee around to form a pigeon's pose. This will stretch out the glutes of your left leg and continue to stretch the anterior hip flexors on the right. This is followed by rotating into a butterfly stretch, stretching out your inner thighs. After you've held this position, you're going to extend your left leg and start to stretch your hamstrings. Lean forward, keeping your chest up and making sure that you're stretching your back of your thigh, not your low back. Once you've completed stretching your left hamstring, we are going to repeat the last few sequences again so that we can stretch the opposite leg. Again, back into child's pose, getting your bottom as close as you can towards your heels. Sorry, a sore knee prevents me from getting down too far. You're then going to bring your right knee up to stretch out your left hip. Again, this is followed by dropping your right knee into a pigeon pose to continue to stretch the anterior of your right hip and getting into the anterior of your left hip and getting into your right glutes. Progress that into a butterfly stretch. And then you're going to extend your right leg to stretch out your right hamstring. When you are done stretching out your right hamstring, we are going to get into standing. If you need assistance with balance, make sure that you grab a chair. You'll see that I had one close by. From this position, we are going to stretch out your quads. When you stretch out your quads, make sure that you're keeping your hip nice and straight, and your knee should be slightly behind your hip joint. Hold the right for 10 seconds, and then repeat on the left. Again, hold for 10 seconds. This will complete our leg stretches, and we are going to go up and stretch our pecs and our biceps. Clasp your hands behind you and reach back as far as you can. Your fingers are interlaced. After that, you're going to stretch out your triceps, pulling it behind your head, much like the picture shows. Make sure you do both arms. And then end with a nice cleansing breath. Another element of recovery is foam rolling. This can help break down scar tissue and adhesions in the muscle, increase blood flow, and increase general muscle health. Remember when you are foam rolling not to be too aggressive. A little bit of pain is okay, but we don't want to cause damage. Guidelines include an increase on a pain scale of 1 or 2 points, and no residual pain a half hour after you're done your foam rolling session. When we talk about foam rolling, remember that there are different types of rollers. The softer the roller, the less aggressive it will be. The more firm and the more bumpy a roller, the more aggressive it is on your muscles, and the more careful you have to be regarding the pressure you apply. The examples I'm using involve a relatively soft and mild roller. The first example that I'm going to show you is how to roll out your calf or your gastroc and soleus. You start with the roller under your leg and roll back and forth to relieve the tension in that muscle. This technique can be continued up the posterior leg to target the hamstrings and the glutes. After we are done rolling out the back of the leg, we are going to roll out the side of the leg. The structure that runs down the side of the leg is called the iliotibial band. This is a thick piece of fascia that runs from your hip bone to your knee. It is often very tender to roll, so do proceed with caution. To properly roll out your IT band, you're going to place the roller under the side of your leg. Bend up your top leg and place your foot on the floor. Gently roll up and down the roller to break up the adhesions of the iliotibial band. You can control the amount of weight going through the roller, thus the amount of pain you're having in your leg, by pushing on the floor with the foot of the top leg. The next area to roll out are your quads and a small muscle at the front of your hip called your tensor fascia lata, or TFL. This is relatively simple to do. You're going to lay on your stomach on the roller and roll up and down. In order to get the small muscle called your TFL, which attaches to your iliotibial band, you're going to go into a semi-rolled position or halfway back onto your side. This muscle sits at the very front of your hip and often feels quite nice to be rolled out. That is it for today. I hope you learned a little bit on how to keep your muscles flexible and conditioned during this time of quarantine. At this time, I wish you to stay healthy and well. Thank you.